Five Nights at Freddy's has come a long way. In just a few months, it transformed the career of an independent game developer from Texas from literally unknown into stardom and propelled him into widespread success. However, an important point must be made concerning his success story. Is Five Nights at Freddy's going too far? The game series is no stranger to beyond the mildly macabre, but recently I've come across some newer stories in the franchise by the creators of the games, no less, that show that Scott Cawthon may be treading in territory of the likes which we never seen before. Meaning, not very good. Where do these stories originate from, you ask? Well, in recent times, before he retired, Scott wrote a series of books called Fazbear, Frights, along with varying co-writers. It is here that the stories we'll be talking about today emerge. Some of you are probably already familiar with some of these newer stories, but all of the stories we'll cover today have got me legitimately concerned for Scott. So, let's find out. Is Scott going down the dark path? First and foremost is the story that everyone in the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom is most familiar with in the flesh. This story came from Book 5, Bunny Cult, and to say the least, it's disturbing. Now, while I am not familiar with the plot of the rest of the stories, I am familiar with In the Flesh's plot and have seen it in Google Images. Yes, the story is so infamous in the FNaF fandom, the FNaF wiki summary of the plot has been immortalized in image form. Now, if you'll excuse me, without further ado, the story. Matt is a game developer working on a VR game called Springtrap's Revenge. In it, you play as a character in a maze trying to avoid Springtrap. Matt uses his anger over his failed relationships with his wife and other people who dumped him to create him. However, when he played the game, Springtrap will always kill him. Furiously, Matt created a hellish reality for Springtrap's AI. The next day, Matt went to check on Springtrap, but he was nowhere to be found. After checking the game's data log, he found out that without a victim to kill, Springtrap had been constantly cloning himself and killing the old version. As a result, his programming was corrupted. Matt went into the game to come into physically contact with Springtrap and felt a sharp sting. Matt started to be more aggressive and hungry, striking out on dates. His stomach also looked more bloated than it should. Meanwhile, Springtrap had been extracted from the game, and in the game's code is a program called It's a Boy X. After striking out once more, Matt went home to find the face imprint on his belly.
Kyrie's inside me?
He grabbed the kitchen knife and cut open his chest. Out came a tiny realistic Springtrap who stroked Matt's cheek and said, "Daddy!" Matt dies from blood loss. The story ends with a police officer interrogating Matt's old roommate Jason in his apartment and finding the tiny Springtrap. Now, the story is surreal, ominous, and Twilight Zone-ish. But the fact that the dude legitimately cut himself open with a knife just to free Baby Tramp shows that Scott might not be in a good place. The second story I found in Fazbear Frights that concerned me immensely is called The Breaking Wheel, and it comes from book number 7, The Cliffs. Now, you might be wondering why we call this story The Breaking Wheel. Well, the term breaking wheel is a term for a medieval torture device that was intended to bend victims' limbs the wrong way, causing gruesome injuries. Fazbear Frights' breaking wheel is actually an exoskeleton made by some inventor named Julius. At some point he got trapped in the exoskeleton and it tore off his limbs while he was still inside the exoskeleton. There is actually promo art for his story, and you can see just how far down Scott has gone when taking a glance at it. I mean, just look at this. As you can see, this is a far cry from the sort of content FNaF is usually associated with. The final story I'm aware of is called Room for One More, and it originates from Book 3, 1:35 a.m. This story entails the mini Renas from Sister Location, and I kid you not, forcing themselves into a person's body through the mouth! Yeah, traumatizing, right? Eventually, so many mini Renas into this person's body, they create perforations through his organs and skin, and, well, I don't know what happens after that, but I'd be willing to bet that person probably doesn't see the light of day. Well, those are all the stories I'm aware of in Fazbear Frights that cross the line. As you can see, Scott has gone beyond the spring laxers and scooping machines and has entered the realm of violent pregnancy, gory exoskeletons, and Forest 4. But within all this carnage and chaos, this brings up an important point. When FNaF first came out, it put many in shock and awe with its atmosphere, creepy robots, and spooky Easter eggs. Many called it the scariest game ever. Yet somehow the bar was set at ominous content and violent content was limited to jump scares. Aside from the plot involving child murders, no truly violent content will emerge until later games like FNaF 3 and Sister Location. And even then, this content wasn't really as graphic as some of the stories in Fazbear Frights. In these earlier FNaF entries, most of the horror came from trying to survive the nights, not the plot and scenario, although the plot was dark and grim at times. In a sense, by introducing these hardcore and borderline violent stories into FNaF's lore, Scott is betraying the very foundation that made FNaF both itself and different from other horror games in the first place. I'd also like to mention something that happened a while back around the time Sister Location was the current topic in the FNaF fandom. I had come across an interview in Geeks Under Grace where Scott said that he tried to limit the blood and gore in the game. Of course, I saw this after FNaF 3 had came out, so I was honestly curious about some interesting contradictions. This led me to make a meme depicting the various portrayals of blood in the FNaF series, and I posted it on both Tumblr and Reddit. And when I posted it on Reddit, none other than Scott himself replied to the post. Things started escalating and pretty soon a giant banner that says Scott is sorry was established on the subreddit. He also indirectly told me to play a game about ponies, but that's for another day. Scott also said that he tried to keep things on a PG level and to keep graphic content to a minimum. Looking back from the present, in comparison with Fazbear Frights, I feel that Scott was right about him keeping things on a PG level back then, and it feels like he isn't really keeping true to his word with his new material nowadays. I also think that Scott might be trying to overexert himself when creating new content for the fanbase. To explain this better, picture a toymaker who spent his time creating toys for the people he loves. But one day he makes a different kind of toy and it gets the attention of everyone across the land. He creates more and more of this new kind of toy, and he soon realizes that he needs to do new, different, and overall better things to keep things fresh and impress the people he makes toys for. At first, he makes small changes with the newer toys have the most appealing aspects refined and improved, making them stand out more. But the changes gradually become bigger and bigger with each toy that the toy maker makes. Eventually, he makes the toys that are representative of Fazbear Frights. Get the picture? The point is, Scott must have felt like he needed to make better and more ominous content with each entry of the franchise if this eventually snowballed into Fazbear Frights. However, there is a point to make. Keep in mind that Scott didn't do this alone. When writing these stories, he got the help of co-writers like Ellie Cooper and Andrea Wagner. Since they are more accustomed to the horror genre, and due to not being as Christian as Scott, they are less afraid to put certain things in their work. So it's likely that they have been the main ones creating these insane stories, not Scott himself. To me, the most concerning aspect of all this is that Scott used to be a man who made things just for fun and things that weren't as chaotic as Fazbear Frights. Scott may have made FNaF, but he also made games like The Desolate Hope, which I personally enjoy. Scott was also, and still is, a Christian, and has made stuff like the Pilgrim's Progress movie and game, and even made a show called the Jesus Kids Club, realizing the contrast between what Scott used to make and what he made just before he retired shows the tragedy of it all. Scott, if you're watching this, I just want you to know that I am concerned for you and that I care about you. I know you've retired, but I still want you to recognize how far into the deep end you've gone when it comes to making stories, especially to impress fans. The conclusion: Scott has dabbled in the deep end, but I know that this isn't who he's truly like. He's a kind Christian who donated his vast riches to charity and used to make games to bring joy to others, but the way his career ended, the depths where Scott went prior to everyone finding out that he donated to Republican PACs. It tells the story of a man whose career started in joy, but ended in sadness. This was an essay about how bad some of Scott Cawthon's books are getting. If you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe and leave a comment saying what you thought of the video. And who knows, I might make more videos like this one.